Hey everyone, and welcome to Previously in the Multiverse. I am Peter, and joining me is Connor.
Oh, what's so funny about that already?
I think my intro's that good. It makes me laugh. I'm laughing at my own delivery of the intro.
That's probably not a good thing. That's like the height of unprofessionalism. That's like worse than laughing at your own jokes.
Why don't we ever claim to be professional? Don't.
We could try.
That's like walking into a brothel and saying there's no sportsmanship. And
Some might like to pretend.
yeah, okay, well, we're a comic book podcast, DC Comics. This is a sister show to Comics from the Multiverse, which is a show that we normally do every week, where we look at the new DC books. That's both of us plus Matt. However, of course, that's kind of on a hiatus right now due to the lockdown stuff, and we've got the Quarantine the Multiverse instead, which is more quizzes and questions and other random chat. But this is where we work our way through old DC Comics runs, and the runs we're working through and are got issues of this week are Batman from Post-Crisis. This week we're doing Batman issue 405. We got Wonder Woman from New 52, issue 8 this week. We have Mark Waid's The Flash with the issue 67 this week. We have the Birds of Prey, the original Birds of Prey run by Chuck Dixon, and we've got Birds of Prey Wolves one shot this week. We have GSA issue 7, part of Geoff John's GSA run. We have Superman 161 from Superman Emperor Joker, and then we have finally Batgirl issue 4 from the Bryan Q. Miller, Stephanie Brown Batgirl run. So that is what's coming up on the show this week. So we don't necessarily have to dilly-dally or delay or whatever. We can get straight into the books in question. So I said it last time, I joked last time I got whiplash from going from Batman Year 1 to Detective last week. Going back again to Batman Year 1. Again, whiplash in the other direction. I mean, my head's just been just flying back and forth. Yeah. So, another big issue. A lot of stuff happening here. It's funny how, like, I just settle back into it though. Like, I get to that first page and see the art, and immediately I'm just kind of like, yes, this is it again. Yes.
Yeah, and this is I'm sure we spoke about this before we started Year 1, but this is unique because, at least as far as I know, neither of us ever read Year 1 in any other way except just sitting down and reading the whole thing.
Yes, which honestly, this worked really well as a single issue, as a separate chapter, I thought.
Oh, I agree. It was just you say there, you got right back into it. The fact that you even had to is kind of a unique situation for us.
Yeah, it starts with the pouring rain, again, the atmosphere of the city, Gordon having his trouble, and it sets up the SWAT team that are kind of ruthless. Gordon hears about this hostage situation, and he rushes over because he has to get there. He has to get there before Brandon and his men go in. It even calls them the lunatic Gestapo. That's what he actually calls them in his narration.
Yeah, last time they didn't even leave the statues standing.
Yeah. And Gordon does he holds the gun up and he puts it in the ground and sort of makes it clear that he's going in, and he knows Barbara's watching at home. We see that, and he goes in and talks the guy down as best he can until he sort of, subdues him just with his fists without any shots being fired, takes care of it. And we hear we hear that the SWAT team are pissed about this because he humiliated us. He went in there and took it on himself. He's bad for business, basically. And Loeb is like, yeah, I know, Flass has told me this a couple of times himself, but we have to play it smart.
The problem is he got the job done, so it looks good.
Yeah. So I mean, there's a lot of montaging here as it's going through the dates, and Gordon, firing his gun. He doesn't want to be in violence, but he has to because he says he hates his job multiple times. It's really playing up just how much the city needs someone. It needs the hope that Batman might bring it. I think that's one of my favorite things about Year 1 is just how much the city needs it. It needs someone.
Oh yeah, the place is an absolute shithole.
Or more to the point, Gordon needs him as well. Because Gordon's like the one man trying to keep the city together. Try to stick to his morals and his ground.
Yeah, and it's all this personal stuff for him because obviously he's got a kid on the way, and he's like, this can't be where they grow up.
Yeah, in fact, I love because the first few pages are all Gordon, right? It's all Gordon. And at the end of his little montage, I mean, it's not even the end actually, because we'll get back to him, but there's a panel of him sitting up at night waiting by Barbara who's sleeping, And the last thing that he says in the narration in that panel is, how could I screw up so badly, bringing an innocent child into life in a city without hope? And the next panel, which notably is not boxed in like the other panels on the page, it's completely wide, so it inherently feels more cinematic in a weird way, because
it just feels bigger, doesn't it?
Yeah, it opens up a little bit more compared to other panels on the page. And it's just this wide shot of the rooftops and the cape, Batman running in his cape, and we've not even seen him yet in costume. This is the first glimpse.
This is the fifth page of the issue before you even see a single panel with Batman or Bruce. For
any variation of him, and I love this idea. Like what we've just said there, the city needs it. Gordon needs something, and even though Gordon obviously is not going to immediately see Batman as an ally, there's going to be this turmoil. There's going to be this arc, into a city without hope. And the very first next thing you see, this is like an editing trick. This is like if this was a movie, this is cutting to the very thing that's going to answer his concern that he just had. This is cutting to the thing that's going to address that concern.
It's moments like this that make this one of those books that you can hand to anyone who has never read a comic before. You could hand this to someone who doesn't even have never seen a Batman movie before. And it would work because of just the way that narration is set up. City without hope, bang, Batman for the first time in the issue. It's okay, I get it. I understand what you're doing here.
Yes, and I love that it's quiet. There's no narration. It's silent. You get the impression of just the visual of it, as opposed to, because you could have easily have had his last box that says "In a City Without Hope." That could have easily been on that panel. They could have bumped that down to be the top of that panel, but they chose not to. They made a specific choice to have that panel be completely clean and just have the silence of the city nighttime kind of like vista as Batman's running. It's the mood, it's the atmosphere, it's all these things. It's the narrative choices and structure and how to place things. And it's one of those things that we don't always talk about when we're talking about comic books. We don't always necessarily sit down and review the flow of the panels, because sometimes it's worth doing, sometimes it's not. And this is an example to me that sticks out as just being really perfect, where they really put thought into it, and it felt like a moment. I felt excited by it, even though I've read this I've read this movie like 4 or 5 times, and I still get excited when I went to that panel. I was like, oh.
I would say even the colouring of the sky. So like on the left hand side of the panel, it's dark, and it's still night regardless. But the panel before, when it's Gordon, there's a full moon out, but the sky is the dark blue colour, like maybe even a purple.
It's like he's going towards the light in the sky.
Yeah, and then this panel with Batman, the first left hand side of that is that dark colour. And then it fades into this lighter blue, like it's like the dawn's coming, and Batman's distinctly in that dawn side.
To use a Batman-related quote here, it's always darkest just before the dawn, right? Not that they came up with that, but it was in Dark Knight. I thought it was applicable here. Really good stuff. And Barbara's helping him, giving him a massage. He's meant to have a night off, but of course, this is when the stories of the Bat. There's some sort of giant bat is attacking people, and we get the first fight scene. And I think what I love about this, and I know something that Matt loves actually, is when Batman's just not a complete badass who can do anything. Like he is struggling here and he's making mistakes. And this entire setup of this fight scene is that he's fighting on a fire escape and he knocks one guy over the edge. So he goes to grab him because he says, "I'm not a killer. I can't let him fall." And the entire time he's holding this guy, the other two, it's one in particular who he knows is more of a threat because he's sort of eyeing him up and sort of thinking about what his strike's going to be. Is like, he's going to strike me regardless of the fact that I'm holding this guy, and if I let go, he's probably going to die. We're high up enough that it's probably going to kill him. And
yeah, I mean, you said that's the second guy who does that. The first guy tries to smack him in the back of the head with a TV.
Yes.
I say tries. He does hit him in the back of the head with the TV.
And I love that as this ends and he's eventually able to pull the guy up and just knock him out kind of on his own terms. And even just the time aspect of this, of the TV falling and the TV landing on the ground, and it gives us an idea of how long the fall would have been. Just beautiful little touches like that.
It's a great combination of how big the fall is, yet still, okay, there's only a finite amount of time yet, so that's how quickly that he's processing this and actually doing this as well. It's a great way of doing both at the same time. Yeah,
but the final panel of that scene, which is like takes up half of a page, is the final words in his narration are lucky amateur. Like, I love the idea that he is being so critical of himself, that he's not thinking I have to do this and I have to do this. He's like, no, I messed up there. I am. This is pathetic. I'm not doing good enough. Like, yeah. That mentality is so interesting. And I haven't been too much attention to the dates at this point, but obviously we're kind of going through the year a bit quicker.
A month ahead of where we were then. I think that was early April.
Yeah.
April 9th, I just checked. It was early April. This is May 15th now.
Yeah, so we're jumping ahead in time. So Batman's I love the sketches in the wall behind Gordon. He's giving the speech of like what the Batman might look like.
Yeah, the first one is like basically Man-Bat.
Yeah. So, and Flash is there, and what's so great about this is that obviously in the first issue we had the whole scene where Gordon had to beat up Flash to sort of make it clear that he couldn't be picked on. And Flash is sitting there with a neck brace on, and he's got like a broken arm, he's got a sling. He's like, the Batman, he's like 8 foot tall, and he's this, and he's supernatural, and he's an entity, and he's all this. And we get this scene where the rest of the squad room are basically giggling and laughing at him. Because he's, he sounds like a scared child who's talking about this ridiculous thing. Even the dry humor here of him saying that, oh, I got a random tip, an anonymous tip, that there was a cocaine delivery happening, so I was single-handedly apprehending the entire mob. That's why I was there.
Yeah. And it's just him getting his cut.
Yeah, and I love where I love his Gordon's narration or his narration, but he's like, he waits for people to challenge him to see if anyone's going to say anything, because that's completely bullshit, and they all know it's complete bullshit.
Yeah,
but
it's just in the narration. It's not anyone saying it. But one of my favorite lines is one of the felons I had not yet disarmed produced a 357 Magnum. Like, yeah, of course not.
So good. And obviously this scene also introduces Sarah Essen into the mix. She's there. And seems to be the only person in the room who, I mean, and it's only through a couple of simple actions, but she seems to be the only one in the room who's actually in support of Gordon, whereas everyone else is clearly waiting to be impressed.
Yeah, it's just someone like she lights his cigarette for him.
Yeah, and even just the way she was looking at him, like, because the first time you see her, or the second panel you see her in, she's just kind of looking over at him as he's looking down at Flash. And we get this big scene where Batman infiltrates the mayor's mansion, and the mayor's got Falcone there. In fact, this is the first time we even properly see Falcone. I don't think we saw him in the first issue, right?
I don't think so. No.
Yeah, and it's like, no, this Bat character's doing this and this that, and they're basically dismissing him, and Batman's doing detective work. He's outside, and then he makes his big grand entrance. But obviously what's really noble here is that he keeps hearing complaints about Gordon. He's like, I keep hearing about this Gordon, like he's pissing off all the right people. And that's kind of what's letting Batman know that he's maybe someone that could either be trusted or be an ally, or at the very least is not someone that should be on his target list.
Yeah, he's like, well, that's a cop I can assume is honest, at least.
Yeah, so really good. But yeah, so it's as they're gloating, it's like, everything will be fine, as long as the people of Gotham are, think they've got this hero, they'll ask fewer questions and we don't have to worry about anything. They mention Harvey Dent, is pushing for convictions and things like that. Yeah. And Batman throws in a smoke grenade.
He cuts out the lights and says it's showtime.
Yeah, and we get the famous panel of him in the smoke in silhouette, saying, "Ladies,
still gorgeous, isn't it?
Oh, it's beautiful. Ladies, gentlemen, you have eaten well." The double meaning in his sentence there is wonderful. And there's no light, so one of them, like, they've got like a barbecue like in the room, and they lift it to reveal the flame. And the flame kind of lights them from underneath, which is, it's always been a weird panel to me, because every time I see it, just at a glance, it looks like he's got a mustache.
Yeah, okay, that's what you say.
Every time I see this panel, it looks like he's got a mustache. Yeah,
it not reflects shadows.
The shadow, yeah. But it's just Batman like sort of declaring war on them, essentially. Your feast is over from this moment on. None of you are safe. He
looks at himself just to show them enough for them to be scared.
Mm-hmm.
Like, because obviously, he cut the lights himself, but there's just this enough light to give it this dramatic effect, and then shuts it out completely. Well,
it was a power play. He's showing that he can get to them. The fact that he infiltrated their mansion where they feel the most safe. Yeah. Is like, I can get to you. You have to be worried. So there's like one day of May 20th where Loeb's just yelling at Gordon, "You have to get this idiot. You have to get this vigilante. Like, we can't dismiss him anymore." And then, so we see that they're actually setting traps where they've got, I think it's Essen, like, pretending to be mugged. And it's all a ruse, but Batman's just watching going, they're putting a lot of effort into these traps. Like, I'm not falling for this. It's good stuff. And meanwhile, you're seeing Falcone being tied in his bed and be like, oh, we have to get this Batman idiot. He dies. He's done. And we even get that Batman is talking to Dent, and Gordon even thinks Dent might be Batman. He's like looking at his weight, his weights, and he's like, "Oh, you work out? Got to keep in shape, eh?" Like, it's just stuff like that.
This is where we see no. Batman's already got a relationship here with Dent.
Yeah, he's hiding behind the desk, which is important because Batman's going to show up in a minute, and it's the sort of thing that could feel really convenient, except for the fact that we know Batman was literally right where Gordon was. Like, he's in the vicinity. It really sets that up. And also, this is the first scene as well that Gordon's attracted to Sarah Essen, and he's having some thoughts, and obviously, like, he says he could kiss her. It's kind of an awkward moment, and I think before, until we get to the other issues, we can't go into it too much, but like, I think there is something to be said here that Gordon, who is up until this point almost been this like goody two shoes beacon of light for the city, who does not break the rules, I think it's an interesting and perhaps necessary tactic to give him a flaw, to show that he is human. And
because it is undoubtedly shitty, right? He's. I mean, not just it's fine for him to feel this way at the moment. Like, he's not doing anything at the moment, but like you say, he has to have a flaw, and when he has a very pregnant wife at home, maybe don't go looking at the other women.
And I think what's genius about this issue, because the last issue we didn't really get any of his wife, but this issue we have the whole montage at the start where she's rubbing his neck and like trying to be there for him and
cooking him dinner, and
it really makes us sort of like come to appreciate what she is in his life. So it makes us feel doubly bad when he has this kind of quick thought here. But this truck almost rams them. Rams for this homeless person who's got a shopping trolley, and what's so great about this is that Batman sees this is happening. We see him on the rooftop in silhouette, sort of hear this is happening. He leaps down into action. Gordon's going to do the same thing. And what's beautiful about this is that it's showing you that they're both alike. Like, they're both leaping to action immediately.
I love that they take different approaches as well, though. Like, so Gordon actually doesn't go for the person; he goes to the truck. He's like trying to get in it to the wheel and turn it. Whereas as Batman just dives to get the person out of the way.
But notably, Gordon is doing this while he's still in the car, and he's like, "Essen, take the wheel," and he's trying to like, he's still being reckless in a.
Oh yeah, he jumps out of the car, and he jumps out of a moving car onto the next fan.
And notably, the art here, both his actual leap and Batman's leap down are both in silhouette. They're coloured the same way to show that they're doing similar heroic acts at the same time, and to show that they're two, they're two peas in a pod.
And both use a light as well as an anchor point. So Gordon's leaving to as the headlights, and Batman's using the street light.
Yeah, and then of course
it's very similar.
And Gordon says, it's over, I've blown it. But then of course. And this is kind of setting up the entire point of year one, right? Is that Gordon is trying his best and he will accomplish a lot, but when he can't quite get the job done, Batman can be there to do it. That's kind of the whole point.
The backup got him covered. Yeah.
And even though he doesn't know it yet, this is the first big example of it. And of course, all the traps have not worked to capture Batman, but that's because he knows they're traps. This is someone who will actually die if he doesn't leap in, so he leaps in. And this is what leads us to a cliffhanger where Essen's got the gun on him, all these other cops show up. And they go after him, and he gets shot in the leg. He runs into a building, and unfortunately for Gordon and Batman, he gets the call that Brandon and his goons are being called in, which again was I almost said conveniently. Conveniently is not the word. Expertly was introduced earlier in this issue, so that we understood who they were and what a big deal this was. And the helicopter starts dropping fire bombs on the set, so the colouring goes nuts as we have obviously the orange and the yellows, but there's even a bit of pink in there just to give it a kind of.
There's a pink and a purple. It's extreme, it is because the building lights out was already due for demolition, so no one's in there. So,
other than maybe a few derelicts, as it points out.
Yeah, which is, fairly dark already.
Well, no, what I love about it though, is that, he's Gordon's assured that there's no one in there because it's demolition, other than maybe a few derelicts. The person that both him and Batman just went out of their way to try and save was a homeless person, which is exactly the type of person who would be in an abandoned building. It's beautiful the way that they both leap to save this person, and then immediately the commissioner, the mayor, whoever, are just writing off. There may be some homeless people in there, but it doesn't matter.
Yeah, well, they're like a couple less homeless people to worry about.
Yeah, it shows again their attitude being the same but also different from everyone else. It's beautiful stuff. Final page is the. Actually, that was the final page. Was that the final? I don't know. It's hard to tell.
The final page is the squad walking in, right?
I wasn't sure if that was the cover of the next issue or the final page of this one, to be honest. It could have been either.
That's a good point.
Honestly, like I think it may be the cover. I want to say that's the cover of the next issue.
It is actually. You're right.
Yeah, the explosion itself's the final moment. Yeah,
it works for both.
It does. It actually does work for both. But clearly, fantastic issue. Honestly, some of the small things we were pointing out there in the art, I wasn't even thinking about when I was reading it. It was just as we were sitting dissecting it that I'm looking at it going, oh, hey, that's really smart.
They're just, even if you're not consciously aware of, that's what they're doing.
That's what good storytelling is that, I mean, we love to sit and dissect it because we love revealing it and discovering it and like sort of thinking about it, but good storytelling for most people who just consume it is just there under the surface. And yeah,
absolutely. It's like there are movies that we've done reviews for that I've watched 10, 15 times before and enjoyed a lot, and I'll do a review, so I'll watch it with a more critical eye. I'll actually pay attention to the tricks that it's doing, and I mean those tricks are there whether you're watching for them or not. They're working on you whether you're watching for them or not.
Because in some ways you'll notice some more stuff in a movie you've seen 15 times already because you're thinking that way, and then I think there's also some things that both of us won't even realize until we talk about it, where even though we've seen it 15 times and we've looked at it critically, it's not until we actually start firing the ideas back and forth that we get to the point where we go, oh wait, it did this really smart thing.
I mean there are so many things that we've reviewed across all mediums that we do, that where we've said, we came into it with this opinion, like we were going to give this an 8 out of 10, but after talking about it, we actually like it more now. After a half hour, 40-minute conversation,
or sometimes less. That's also possible.
Yeah, we've talked ourselves down as well, but just having that discussion and actually kind of developing those ideas has changed our opinions.
Yeah. So once again, this kind of proved to me why Year One, when I hadn't read it in a long time, is kind of the special book that it's sort of, and for me is definitely better than Dark Knight Returns. I think it's the better of the two. I probably said that last time, but I'll say it again because this was fantastic.
I mean, I will say that as well on a gut reaction from memory, but it has been years since I read Dark Knight Returns. So
I always loved the first issue of Dark Knight Returns and wasn't in love with the rest of it. That was always my feeling with it.
That's fair. I liked it. I think I like it more than you do in general. Then
the animated movie is really good, though.
That's so good. But I mean, I'm sure we'll get to Dark Knight Returns at some point on this show.
Yeah, I'll probably like a vote one that goes the end, the final slots, rather than, because obviously we're already past it in terms of this timeline.
Yeah. I mean, in terms of the when we like one of the vote slots at the minute is Emperor Joker. That's mostly going to be miniseries, shorter runs, things like that. Dark Knight Returns, that'll slot in there at some point for a vote, I'm sure.
Yeah. All right, what are you giving this issue?
It's a 9.
Yeah, 9 out of 10. I'll give it that too. All right, we'll move on then to Wonder Woman issue 8. Bryan Azzarello writing, Cliff Chiang on the art, and Wonder Woman goes to hell, and it's London.
Yeah,
sounds about right, I guess.
It's gorgeous, is what it is.
No, it's
to be fair. London is pretty hellish.
It's I mean, it's a very pretty book. I'm not going to argue it, but I mean, I'm not in love with this run. That's been clear last few issues. So.
Yeah, we have a few pages at the start with them still with Hephaestus, gearing up for hell. He's hey, don't you want some guns? Come on, guns are just more modern. They'll pack more of a punch. And she's like, no, I've been trained. I'll be good. But he does insist on giving Eros handguns. Big like 50 cal pistols by the look of them.
Yeah, which comes in handy later when she trades them for Zola.
Yeah. I feel like Hephaestus maybe had an idea of where this was going, because he makes a point of saying, "Don't worry, she'll bring him back."
Yeah.
And he's like, "Won't you, Wonder Woman?" Of course not.
Yeah, I will say I did like the visual of, because once they get to hell, the statues kind of like almost shed their layer of concrete to reveal like kind of like these skinless like men and horses underneath.
Yeah, they're like flayed men.
Yeah.
At first, I thought it was going to be a centaur, and then it's like, oh no, it's just a man on a horse, and it's kind of more terrifying because of that.
Yeah, no, really good, good art stuff there.
Because this is hell, so we've got the just the blood red sky at all times. It gives it this great eerie atmosphere throughout.
Yeah, but they end up going through the forest to get to the house where Zola is, and she's got longer hair and says, "Oh, I knew you'd come eventually after the first weeks and months, even though it was hard." And Wonder was like, "Wait, it's been like a week or whatever." I mean, she doesn't actually finish her sentence, but it's not been long. You know, they made a point of trying to figure this out immediately, so time has moved differently.
Hermes seems to be aware of this because he cuts her off before she reveals how long it's been. She's like, "It's been too long. You know, we'll get you out of this place."
Yeah, almost implying to me that there may be a time jump when they come back out.
Could be.
They'll be in here for like an hour, but that'll be like 5 weeks or something in real world.
Yeah, it could be. Yeah.
Which is actually not unlike a certain hit television show, Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and its rules. Set up in the episode Anne in season 3, and then was later used to great effect in Angel a couple of times. So that's the thing. But yeah, so yeah, Hades shows up and doesn't.
It's basically like, hey, you brought in one soul, you can take out one soul.
Yeah, he accepts the guns for trade. So it does. But then, of course, Hades, being the little shit that he is, goes to shoot Wonder Woman. She goes to do the cross arm pose to block the bullet, but it goes right through the gauntlet, right through the wrist, and into her chest. And it
is a godly weapon after all.
Yes, of course. And yeah, so they actually beam out and leave her behind. Zola doesn't want to, of course, but this is so no, get her out. This is what we came for. Go. So Wonder Woman's still in hell, and
the final line is, "Hey, can't you see she's in love?" Which. I don't remember like the particulars and details of this run here right now. So, but I mean, these are Eros's guns, who is, basically Cupid, right? So these guns are the replacement of his bow and arrow in a modern era. Has she just been shot with a love bullet, essentially?
I would assume so. So he's got himself a Wonder Bride.
Yeah, because he makes a point of saying, "Hey, there's going to be a wedding." So.
Yeah, I mean, I like this issue more than the last couple. I thought it was more focused. The art was obviously really good. I like the simplicity of just, it's a trip to hell, fight a big thing. It flowed quite well. I'm still not like any higher on the run though. Like I think my taste is just kind of settled that this isn't my thing.
That's fair.
And I'm just kind of rolling through it. But
I think this is this might be my favorite issue so far. It's so focused. I love the atmosphere of hell. I love the outfit that Wonder Woman's wearing in this one, like the armored plates and stuff on the shoulders and the arms. Looks great.
Yeah, what are you giving it?
I'm gonna give it an 8.5. I'm really into this one.
Yeah, I'll give it a 6. Yeah, it's all put together. But that'll take us out to the Flash, issue 67. Mark Waid writing, Greg LaRocque is back on the art. Obviously, he skipped an issue, the Aquaman, guest starring issue. So this issue has the Abracadabra showing up, and we start to weave in more of the future stuff, which doesn't actually connect to what was done in the specials, but definitely something that Mark Waid's going to be playing with is the future timeline and sort of that. So you have Abracadabra, who shows up at the start through a random dude's top hat, and immediately he's like, people remember, and then gets really pissed when he sees that Abracadabra is advertised for some charity thing that the Flash is doing, and it gets livid. I mean, we don't see his face notably here. It shields us from his face the entire time. We don't get to see it.
Very important.
Yeah. So we go to this. It's like a charity basketball game, or at least this part is a basketball game. It's Wally basically beating an entire basketball team on his own because he's got super speed.
It seems to be all various heroes or powered people just do their own, like, hey, here's a trick that I'll do. Yeah,
Pied Piper, who's a good guy here in this part of the timeline, is there to help. Linda's there. Wally's wolfing down hot dogs, and Linda's disgusted by the whole thing. So it's all very delightful Wally stuff. I think it's fun to get to like these sort of quiet beats in some of the issues in the run where we've done the origin story. We had the kind of our kind of fill in sort of story with Aquaman, right? And this is kind of like, okay, we're back to kind of what the run's going to be. So this is kind of our first glimpse to see, okay, what are the arcs going to be like now that we're back in, present day. Wally's the Flash. What are we doing here? And so having like, okay, so we've got the ongoing kind of romance with Linda at play, this charity work, and then although there was a line here from Wally I thought was a bit harsh. This guy calling himself Abracadabra shows up, and Wally turns around to him and says, "Did I ask you? Get lost, okay?" And I'm like, all right, Wally, I get you don't like him, but that felt like a pretty jerky line.
Yeah, to be fair, the guy was a bit of a dick. Caught your act. It was cute. Like that's pretty demeaning.
Yeah, I mean, he's got another sort of snarky line later, but the one later kind of worked better for me in the context of the scene. It felt like it was snarky, but in character and kind of in the moment. Felt justified. So this Abracadabra does his big magic trick for the crowd. He's got all these model assistants with big playing cards, and he does his thing. But then, of course, the real Abracadabra makes him catch fire, and Wally goes into like douse the flames, runs around, does some tornadoes.
Yeah,
whole thing.
It's too late.
It's too late. Well, the guy's been put in the card. He's become one of the playing cards.
Yeah, but seemingly on fire within the card as well, which I thought was a pretty horrific touch.
Yeah. So one of the things that Wally really sets up here in his narration, probably even before this, is that he sets up, okay, Abracadabra doesn't actually use magic. He has technology from the future, which is so advanced that it seems like magic, but he's not actually a magician, which I think is really important to note, just because as the issue goes on and he keeps like claiming he's like, the best, greatest, magician ever, and Houdini was a fraud and all that, it's like, well, so are you. like,
yeah. What I really like as well is it establishes that Wally, he's not even up to date on regular present day stage magic, right?
Sure, yeah.
Because this card, this trick with the cards, he's like, yeah, I've seen it before, and I have to admit, I don't even know how it works. But he's like, it does. He's supposed to vanish, but I don't get it. And if he doesn't get regular stage magic now, how does he, comprehend something from like 6,000 years, about 4,000 years in the future?
Yeah. So let me actually finally get to see, actually, I liked as well Wally saying that, a lot of Barry's old foes, they're kind of lame and goofy, but Abracadabra was not one of them. I kind of like this idea that, like, if some of them pop up as little like guest stars for a joke, like it's kind of set up that Wally kind of acknowledges them as that. But we finally see Abracadabra, and he looks grotesque. He's all burned, and his face is mangled. He's kind of like Abracadabra crossed with like Freddy Krueger. He's kind of my best.
That's a pretty good descriptor.
Yeah. So, and was okay, it's showtime. So he tries to take him on, and Abracadabra uses some of his tricks. I
like how that's the second issue so far this week where someone has used "It's Showtime."
That is true. Yeah, that's true. It's kind of funny how we had like 2 issues with Scarecrow last week as well.
Yeah.
We keep having these weird parallels showing up. But no, one of my favourite panels of the whole issue is the close-up of his eyes. Abracadabra, that is. When he sort of tries to... He kind of wraps up the judges. The male judge says something he doesn't like. Or the guy in the...
It's the Houdini thing.
Yeah, the guy says... because no one knows this is the show yet. They all still think this is part of the show, right? They don't realize there's a real threat in front of them. And he says something about comparing it to Houdini. And the bottom of that page, the panel of Abracadabra's eyes, it really looks like a horror movie villain smirking. And like,
I love just the hint of the smirk with the teeth that you can see in the bottom of the panel. Like there's only like maybe 3 or 4 teeth on show, but it's just enough that you really get the sense of that evil grin. Yeah,
it's a skull as well. It's the way his eyebrows are angled. It just all of it feels just sinister and grim. So yeah, really, really good. And even a couple of pages later as well, when he sort of like he's sort of monologuing maniacally at the bottom of the page, and he's sort of got that thing where he's got one eyebrow up, but his skin's kind of gone, so it's just kind of like
horrific. Yeah. Oh, I love how like his skin's all gone, but his eyebrows are there, and he's got the big long mustache and like the goatee.
Oh, I love it. It's great. It's great. So while he's still trying to run around and deal with these tricks and whatnot, and it's right around then when this new character shows up with a weird gun thing.
Just before she shows up as well, though, he's got such a monumental moment where he's like, wave of his hand and he'll kill everyone here. unless I kill him first. I've got about 1/10 of a second to decide
Yeah,
if
you're
I
right,
have it in
yeah.
me to actually take a life. That's such a huge moment for him to be considering.
Absolutely, yeah. I shouldn't have glossed over that. That is like, yeah. If I don't take him out, he's going to kill all these people. The fact that this entire crowd became, almost dead is kind of a big deal. Like, it almost became like a mass murder, like in a moment.
This is that moment where he has to decide: do I let him do this and try and stop him, or do I take him out? Do you know what this is? This is a good version of what is supposed to be the final beat of Man of Steel.
Yeah, kind of. Oh dear. Yeah. So Wally, in trying to intervene, actually inadvertently saves Abracadabra, and like him and this woman who's shown up, who's clearly from the future. Like, there's no question, I think, when she shows up that she's clearly from the future. Her technology, the weird clothes she's wearing, it's obvious.
Just the color of the gun that when she shows up, like, it's all this light beams around it, and you're like, okay, this is futuristic as shit.
Yeah, we get this really interesting sort of premise that comes from her as well, is that she's here to get Abracadabra, and they actually sent him to this time period on purpose, because he was so reckless that he didn't fit into the sort of, like, Star Trek-like society that they've got in the future. And it's like, well, people of his own kind can take care of him, because this era was particularly reckless. Everyone was off their heads. All these superheroes running around. And
basically, they were like, just go throw him in Arkham Asylum.
Kind of. Like, you can deal with it. You're better equipped because you're full of these nut jobs in your time period. And he's like, wait, if you came back to get him now, like, why not just go back to when he first appeared? And she basically explains that, well, the time travel's like not that accurate. Like, they could only sort of estimate within about 10 years of where he landed. So, or when he landed, I should say. So that's why she's shown up now.
It's because it's such a big time jump that, if they were only going back 100 years, they could be much more precise. But because they're going back thousands, it's like, we can get pretty close. And it's only because we could follow exactly where he was that we can get as close as we did.
Yeah. So Flash just grabs her, runs off to try and help find him, see if they can track him down. They go through a bunch of places. She's kind of directed him. And they end up actually on the city between the two cities. The bridge between the two cities is what I was trying to say.
I was like, what was that?
Yeah, because Keystone, of course, and Central City are twin cities with a bridge. Think the Golden Gate Bridge, essentially, the Brooklyn Bridge, maybe connecting them. Maybe a better comparison. And he's on top, and he's basically going to essentially like murder the city. Like he's
kind of like gonna blow it up, kind of.
Yeah, he wants to destroy the entire city.
And she's like, "Oh, that's great. He'll exhaust all his power, and then it'll be really easy to capture."
Yeah, and Wally's like, No. I have to stop him. We can't just let people die. And she's like, yeah, but everyone here's history. It's fine. And all I could think was, yeah, but what if one of these people's your ancestor? Isn't that going to be like an issue? Just, butterfly effect, all that.
It depends what the time travel rules are right now.
Yeah. So it was all sorts of times because he's up on top of the all the cable area, all the cables like up on top of the arc. What do you call that part?
I don't know the technical word. The support beams.
Whatever you call it. Someone's going to tell us in the comments.
Probably. We're not bridge experts.
I know there's at least one bridge aficionado in our audience who's going to tell us.
Do we actually have a bridge fan?
I don't think so, but
there's got a bridge.
I mean, he likes bridge, but he prefers Go Fish.
That was bloody terrible.
That was a quality joke. It was a quality joke.
It's just the arch.
It's just the arch. Oh, there you go. Okay, top of the arch. There you go. So, of course, Wally has to go in and try and save everything. But the big ending is that when he tries to grab Abracadabra, she fires her weird time gun thingamajig, and there's a flashlight. And you know what's going to happen here. Before you turn the page, like, oh my god, you know what the cliffhanger is going to be. You turn the page, and it's a 2-page spread where she's went to the future along with Abracadabra, but Wally's been taken for the ride. So we're in the future now, in this weird, colourful future. There's people like floating around in these weird triangles, and Wally's just like, oh crap.
Yeah, it's unique looking.
Yeah, do you know what? The design of her mask really makes me think of like a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles villain or something like that from the cartoon. Like I'm getting like Bebop
I think
and
it's the way
Rocksteady.
it goes over her nose.
Probably. Although I'm not sure why she looks bald in the final panel.
That's a good question.
Did her hair get burned off in the time travel?
Maybe.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. Which, by the way, they mentioned that just to explain why Abracadabra came back in the first place is that he thought because part of the reason he wants to kill everyone in the building is because he wants to pull off the greatest trick ever by killing everyone in the building and bringing them back to life because he thinks he can do that, and he thinks he can do that because he technically thought he died and came back to life, but what actually happened was he just got caught in like a time stream until his technology that was malfunctioning fixed itself, and that's why he came back when he did. It wasn't that he actually cheated death.
Shenanigans, basically.
Yeah, shenanigans. But I thought I'd mention that. That was his motivation. So it wasn't even just that he wanted to kill a room full of people. It was, or an arena full of people. It was, oh no, I want to do the greatest trick ever. And all I could think is like, yeah. And then when they don't come back, you'd be like, oh well, oops a daisy.
That sounds about right for him.
It does, doesn't it? I had fun with the issue. How did you feel?
Yeah, I thought it was pretty good. I think it's an interesting start to the run proper, as I'm going to say, because the origin was okay. Let's just kind of get our feet wet, get some backstory going, and the last issue was basically just a fill in before we can
actually
really
getting his feet wet.
Yep, exactly. I'll let you have that one. But this is it's the start of the run essentially, and it kind of feels that way. It's like, okay, here's the status quo. This is where we are. Here's a villain. We're going to play with a villain that first, and kind of play with some big hits, but we're going to put a twist on it, and do something new and unique at the end. And if this was the first issue of something, we talk all the time about first issues and having that extra hook at the end. And I think this really succeeds by having, okay, but now he's in the future, and it's in like a really far future. So it completely inverts the standard story trope that we have with Abracadabra showing up, and it's pretty interesting for that reason.
Yeah. What are you giving it?
I'm going to give it an 8.
Yeah, I'll agree with that. Give it a solid 8. Yep. That'll take us on to Birds of Prey Wolves, issue 1, next one shot in this series of one shots. Chuck Dixon writing with Dick Jordano on the art, and this, follows on quite rightly because we left them in a place of sort of, kind of like tensions were rising between Dinah and Babs, and they were kind of ready to have some big talk. And this issue starts, and they've not really had the talk yet. They're kind of finishing up some other little mission, and Dinah complains that it's not really what they were kind of supposed to be doing because they're at like a car factory and they're
it's like Toyota or something, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's not really that important. They're just kind of finishing off a job. And then it's like, no, we need some time apart. And it's like, and Dinah, unlike before, where she's just taking the comms off without, and like a rage says, okay, I'm going to take off the comms, and we can do our own thing for a bit, right? So we get this issue, which is actually the two of them being separated for most of the issue, and Babs has a plot, and Dinah has a plot. And it's basically how men are shit in both plots in variety of ways. And I'm not. That's not a complaint for the record. I'm okay with men being portrayed as shitbags because a lot of them are. So it shows that they're both kind of like just kind of sad about the separation, if you want to call it that. But so
these are both essentially rebound guys.
Yeah, Dinah goes to a video rental store just to date the comic a little bit, and there's a lot of name dropping on here where the guy offers it, we got the new Seagal, and she's like, oh please. I get a chuckle out of that myself.
Sure.
But yeah, so that leads to her ex-husband showing up, or her first husband, who I have to admit, I'd read this issue before a long time ago, but I'd forgotten she had a first husband, like before, like she was with Ollie or anything like that.
I'd forgotten entirely, and I hadn't read this before. It was something that I think I knew at some point. Like, yeah. Once I was reading it, I was like, oh yeah, that's ringing a bell.
Probably not in continuity now because of the de-aging and all that from Flashpoint, and
I mean, I'm not even sure her mother's in continuity right now.
Yeah, probably. Whereas Babs goes to a bookstore and gets really pissed off at the clerk for trying to help her because she feels that she's, being overly helpful because she's in a wheelchair. And it's a sort of, I've actually seen that behaviour. My father was in a wheelchair, and I saw examples of this where they get frustrated if you offer them too much help. They're like, oh, you're treating me like I'm helpless, or they have that mentality. Which makes sense. You understand why they kind of go down that path.
There's part of this that really confuses me.
Mm-hmm.
Because she says, oh, yeah, women's studies on the second floor. Can I help you to the elevator? And I get why she's really annoyed about that. I don't need the help to the elevator. And she says, I don't want women's studies. I'm like, well, then why was she directed to women's studies? That's so...
I actually agree to an extent with this, is that I actually assumed she said that because that's what she asked about, because it happened off panel. And then she said, I don't even want women's studies. I'm like, oh, that was an assumption as well? That's a weird assumption to me.
Yeah, like helping people in the wheelchair is... it's well-meaning. It's not malicious, but it happens, right? And I get why she's lashing out, especially in the mood that she's in. The women's study, like, that's such a reach. Like, what, like, the only thing I can think of is she in here before and she's seen her looking at women's studies? Did she overhear her mentioning women's studies? Like, why would you jump to that?
I think because it's going for the thing where someone is. It's just like a woman walks into, say, like a hardware and like DIY place, and the person at the door immediately says, oh, the kitchen section's over there. That's kind of what the moment they're going for here, right? Where she's making this assumption. But I feel like there's actually more kind of traditional, like, women-centric focused genres. Like the romance section, for example, I would say would be the more obvious thing to do this joke with. It'd be like, oh, you want the soppy romance section. No, I don't want the soppy romance section.
That would have actually played so much better. Not just because it would have not been confusing, but that would have played off Dinah's beat fantastically. Sure. Where the guy's like, hey, we got all these action movies. And she's like, how about she requests, I can't remember who she uses, but, it's like, oh, so you want something with a romance. Yeah. And it's this subversion for Dinah. And so this here, by doing the complete opposite, by going, hey, do you want the romance section? Would have really worked. But women's studies, that's so specific. It's just I don't get it.
Yeah, it's such a small thing. It's not a big deal. It's just a weird little line in the moment.
It just threw me so much, though.
Yeah. So we see that Craig, the ex-husband, wants help from Dinah because he's in trouble. And
did you actually remember his name, or did you happen to just read it when you skimmed then?
Oh no, I checked it. The first page it showed up.
Oh, okay. Get you.
Yeah,
because I was going to say, there's no way I could have remembered his name was Craig.
I was being sly. So basically, much like the first issue of Stephanie Brown Batgirl, some punks try to mug Barbara, and all I could think was, man, Gotham's a shithole. Like, who decides to mug someone in a wheelchair? Like, there's usually a slight honor code at least. Like
easy targets, aren't they? Usually.
Well, usually Babs is a bit more.
She's the exception to the rule.
And of course, she does kind of feel a little bit where she gets knocked out into the road and almost gets hit by a car, and this guy comes out, and that leads to kind of the rest of the plot. The ultimate reveal of this is a bit convoluted for my liking. That these goons had a plan the whole time where this guy's one of them, and he wanted to gain her trust so she would take him back to her place, and then they could rob her entire apartment. Like, it's such a convoluted plan. Now,
I love the sheer arrogance and the egotistical nature of this man that is like, whoever we pick, I'm good. I can get back to their apartment on the first date, no problem. If that's the plan on a regular basis.
Yeah. It's really cool. Don't get me wrong, I was glad he turned out to be a villain because he was being a slimy prick the entire time. I'm like, he better be a villain because he's awful. Yeah. I hate him. He better be a villain. Whereas the Dinah plot is more that her husband is saying that he's on the run because he was doing, taxes or, the money books for this company. It turned out to be part of an organized crime, and they're after him. But then the twist there is it turns out that he actually stole an encryption key from them so he could take the money for himself. So he's not an innocent victim like he claims he is. So Dinah's kind of falling for him a little bit over the issue, but then when she finds this out, it's like, nah, you're on your own, and just kind of leaves him. Eventually. So, and Babs has been taken out for dinner, and then the ultimate thing where she's, and Babs' final scene is quite fun because she turns off the light and puts on her night vision goggles, and it sets up during the issue that her wheelchair developed a squeak because of when it got knocked over.
I actually really appreciate one of the villains, shines the torch at her, when she's in the night vision goggles to try, realizes what's going on and tries to counteract it.
No, but it sets up that her wheelchair developed a squeak, and she uses that as a tactic at the end because she sort of rolls out the wheelchair. He hears the squeak and he turns around and attacks it, but then no, she's just moved to a new wheelchair because she's got more than one. Really simple stuff, but it kind of showed them both having to kind of deal with their problems in different ways. And then ultimately at the end, and like I say, the art and the issue is probably at its best during that night vision sequence. Really fun stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. So at the end of the issue, it's kind of them. Dinah like calls her and says, "Hey, you there, Babs?" And she's like, "Yeah, I'm here." And they're both kind of like eating like comfort food. They're both eating ice cream, and they realize they're kind of similar. And Babs admits that, "Hey, maybe I need to let you sort of use your instincts sometimes. I can't always, order and dictate, to a T. You have to." Make your own call in the field, and they kind of respect each other, and it ends with them just kind of looking at their ice cream, and yeah, I think what I like about this little run so far of Birds of Prey is that even though they've all been kind of separate things, there has been this through line of their kind of attitude with each other,
building each other. Yeah, there is a plan in mind. This wasn't just random.
Yeah, so we got one more one shot I think left in the first big trade.
I will say I'm ready for the one shots to be over and done with.
And you just gotta have normal issues, yeah. Well, we're almost there. We have one
because my complaint with at least this one and the last one as well, I think, is they're just too long for what the story is. I feel it being stretched out, even in this one where it's two completely separate full plots, essentially, between the pair of them. And I'm just like, this doesn't need to be this long. You could do this in half the page count and still be as effective.
Yeah. So. Yeah, we got one more one shot, and then we're actually onto the book proper. We're on to Birds of Prey issue 1. So not normal issues from that point on, barring an annual here or there or whatever. But so that's cool. I enjoyed this well enough. I probably agree. It's a little bit too long for what it is, but not in a way that was painful by any means. I don't think I think. Their demeanor, the way they were, their interactions were amusing enough for the most part. Watching them kind of get their own at the end of the issue and then sort of come back together on the phone call. Like, I think all that stuff worked well enough. I mean, would it have worked better with like 10 less pages? I mean, probably, but it wasn't like I was sitting there going, "Oh my god, this is torture," as I was reading it. Everything's pleasant enough to get through. Yeah,
it's not the worst thing ever. Like I say, I think it's just overlong for what it should be, what it needs to be.
Yeah. And the art's okay as well. It didn't stand out in particular. There's some fun pages and moments, and some of the fights are good. Sometimes
there's the odd panel here or there that looks a bit off, but not terribly so.
Yeah. What are you giving it?
I'm giving it a 6.5.
Yeah, I'm gonna give it a 7. That was kind of the number I had in my head the whole time. So there you go. That's Birds of Prey Wolves, which will take us on to JSA issue 7. Geoff Johns and David Goyer writing with Stephen Sedowski on the art. And this is the start of, I think it's a 2-parter. That's just from memory though, admittedly. So, I mean, I can't be doing that for the whole run. But I've read this part of the run before. So, I think it's a 2-parter.
I mean, I've read the whole run before, but I couldn't tell you which ones are many parts.
I mean, it's at least a 2-parter because it's it's not over.
Well, yeah, I mean, I know it's at least 2, but I mean, if this ends up being 3 or 4, I mean, sure. I don't think it is because I know we've got the Wildcat issue in this trade as well,
and it's coming soon. It has to be coming soon. If anything, it may actually happen concurrently with what happens in this, or at least the next issue.
It might be.
Yeah, when they're all away doing this, that's when he's having his little adventure. So yeah, it's called Darkness Falls. This little arc, which not to be confused with the horrible 2003 horror film starring Emma Caulfield, who of course was on the hit television show Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
No. You already had your Buffy reference.
There's no quota. So there's a tease at the start of the issue of like Dinah running from something, right? And she's diving out of a window. She goes through a flag, lands in a car. Feels quite brutal. There's shadows.
Yeah, she tries punching at one point. She just punches straight through.
Yeah, there's shadows chasing her. She tries punching. It's super intimidating.
And one of the shadows are really recognizable in this twisted, demented way.
Yeah, one's clearly Jay Garrick, one's clearly Our Man, one's clearly Hawk Girl. So it teases us, and it says, okay, earlier that morning, we come back, and it's actually Jade we start on. Jade, who's got like a sort of link to her brother, Todd. and Obsidian, for anyone who's not. This is one of these weird things as you're reading these issues, is like there's a lot of connections with these characters that it's hard to kind of keep track of if it's your first time. And even I, having read this before, like I'm like, okay, I'm just remembering, okay, so brother, sister, they're both Alan's.
I think that's one of the
kids.
things that this issue is so good at is, okay, so we're 3 panels onto this page, we'll introduce her. So she wakes up, she's cutting herself, and you're like, who's this? And then she looks at the picture, and it's her and Obsidian, and it says Todd, and you've got Alan Scott there behind them, and it's okay. And she talks about him being her brother, and it's like, okay, it's clearly saying this is a family portrait.
Yep.
And then even by the end of this page, she's on the phone saying, "Is Alan there?" Tell him it's his daughter. So it's like all of this is there on that first page. And
amusingly, the very next page is also a family connection because it's Hector coming in to talk to Kendra. He said, "Oh, technically we're cousins," because
she wants nothing to do with it.
Yeah, she's not interested in even listening to this. She wants to be left alone. And we have a bit of we talked about the video store dating the Birds of Prey issue a little bit. Here, Stargirl's trying to watch Felicity on the TV, which there was a show called Felicity. It's not just some weird omen of the Arrow TV show, but obviously there's a weird like jolt you get by hearing that name now if you had to suffer through that.
In reference to anything DC related.
Yeah. But she's upset that the TV's not working properly.
Because there's going to be a news broadcast.
She's like, how do I fix this? It's like, well, they're not broadcasting it, so you can't fix it.
It's an emergency news broadcast. You just have to wait it out.
Yeah, so basically, what city was it actually? It's in Milwaukee. So it's a state, not Milwaukee. Yeah, it's a city. Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Yeah. That's in Wisconsin, yeah. I just questioned myself for a second, is Milwaukee a state or a city? It's a city.
I was like 100% sure it was a city until you said, or is it a state? And then I went,
it's because I immediately thought of Wayne's World, because in Wayne's World, they're in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And I had a moment. But anyway, right. So basically, there's no shadows in the city, which is really. Do you know what? Do you know what the sad part of this is? Is that so much comic art will cheat and not bother with shadows that I almost feel like this premise would actually work better as an episode of a TV show or a movie, because the visual of it would be so surreal on film.
Yeah, and do you know what bothers me even more?
Yeah.
Is that it actually looks like there is still shadows, like more than usual. So I'm noticing it. So we get there, and it's Kendra's wings, and it's the way she's stood. They're casting a shadow between themselves, and I get the artist has to do this to show that illusion of depth. I understand why that's there, because otherwise this image just looks flat and wrong, and it doesn't work for us.
Yeah,
but I'm kind of going, that's clearly a shadow there.
Before we get there, though, they've got a little shuttle thing that takes them to their aircraft hangar, where Courtney's stepdad Pat has worked on a jet for them to get around.
Very X-Men, this, isn't it?
Yeah. Do you know what I love about this is that we're still kind of in the early days of this run, and they're still setting up kind of like what the status quo is, and they've got a headquarters, they've got a jet now, like they're really setting this up. Stripes there in one panel, just kind of hanging out. So they set all this up, and like you say, they go to Milwaukee, and they go to Tim Rice, how I say his name is? Jim Rice, the stepdad, who's not been great to Todd, but they find, like, in his chair, because this was teased a couple issues ago, the cliffhanger was teased, a little epilogue scene, and he's actually there as a shadow. Like, there's no shadows in the entire city, but there's like a living shadow, or living's maybe not the right word, but just a shadow of a man as a full figure just sitting in this chair. And of course, we get this creepy moment where it smiles at them. Like, you see the mouth open.
The eyes. You just see the eyes and the teeth, and it's like, well, that's terrifying as shit.
And it swallows Alan Scott. It just swallows him into his body, and then that's where the issue really gets going, where these shadow demons start going around, and it infects a few of the members first. Jay, Our Man, and Sand are the first to get attacked, I think. And then it spreads to more of them. So clearly, we can already start to see how this is going to get to the point where we're at the opening, where Black Canary's on her own, kind of running from shadowed versions of the various members, and then inside the shadow lands, I think they call it. You got Alan with Jim Rice in there, and he's terrified. Outside, Courtney and Atom Smasher are trying to like save people, but at this point, some of the characters are already evil.
That's one of my favorite panels. Is Al just looking at? He's holding the car up. And he just looks over his shoulder and says, "Oh no!" And you just see these shadows of Kendra and Jay there, and it's terrifying. They're so demonic.
Oh yeah, and then Obsidian finally shows up, and he's there. He's like, "Don't worry, Al. It'll all be over soon."
Yeah.
So yeah, and then we get Ian Carkle, and this is one of these things where I'm sure if like you want to do your history searching and find out, all these old comics where these things appear, I'm sure they're all there. I'm sure they all exist. But this is my only, or my first like introduction to Ian Carkle. So
yeah, me too. But I mean, it works. It gives you everything that you need here.
Yeah. So no, that's good. He feeds on shadows, like Mr. Rice's, and basically he's working with Todd here. And they make up a point of letting us know as well. Alan explains it to the team that Todd has mental health problems, and he's always kind of struggled with them, and this is kind of what's been exploited by this Carkle character here. But he's trying. Alan's trying his best, and he can't quite win because this is his world that he's in. There's nothing he can do. And he's like, "Oh, what did you do to my son?" He's like, "Oh, nothing he secretly desired, or nothing that he didn't secretly desire." So really good stuff. So you have Atom Smasher, Black Canary, and Stargirl sort of like tied up in the shadow sort of tendrils, while the rest are working with Obsidian. And Stargirl's like, "I think I can blast the back of your restraints, Black Canary," which leads to the opening with her running from everyone. And the big cliffhangers, we sort of skip ahead to the end of the chase. We don't go through the same beats.
I really appreciate that, because it would have been easy to kind of show us a slight different version of that.
Yeah.
With showing us what's chasing her, and fill up your page count if you'd wanted to do that. But it just cuts ahead, just says this is now, and it's right back where we left off.
Yeah, and out of nowhere, there's like she's getting grabbed by all these shadow figures. It's proper horror movie stuff, and there's
just a hand coming out of the blackness.
Yeah, and there's a blast of white light, and she looks up, and I love the detail. She has to use her hand to like cover her eyes because it's too much light.
And there's an actual shadow as well, like Casper, which makes sense here. It works really well.
And the final page is the reveal of who's shown up here, and it is Dr. Midnight, who I didn't even realize he hadn't shown up yet. I remember him being a member of the team, and it just didn't occur to me, oh yeah, he's not been around yet. I'm like, oh yeah. Dr. Midnight, yeah. So he's shown up to help, and that's a big cliffhanger going into next issue. So we're still building more members of the team. We're still adding more to the roster.
It's a pretty huge team by the end.
It is, yeah.
People go in and out, don't be wrong. But in terms of the total collective of potential members at any time, it's unwieldy.
Yeah, so now really good stuff again. Like I'm loving the team building. I'm getting the dynamics. Just one of the pairings that I'm really liking so far is Stargirl and Wildcat. Just that's a couple of times now they've had little interactions between them. They just kind of play really well. So when she's trying to mess with the TV and he comes out in his crutches. A couple of issues ago was when she was cutting the ribbon. It may have been last issue or the issue before, but
I think that was last issue.
All really good stuff. I love delving into the family life of like Alan Scott, and I expect we'll do that with a lot of the other characters as we go. Obviously Kendra's going to get a lot of time soon when we get into the Hawk stuff, but really digging all the world building, and like we say, the art's really solid, especially here. It has to be very, very inventive here because it's doing these like these pitch black shadow people, and then this world without shadows, so it's kind of the opposite.
It's some real nice contrast going on there. Some really solid work.
Yeah, what are you giving it?
I'm gonna give it an 8, just about.
Yeah, I'm gonna agree with it as well. So, really solid stuff. So that'll take us on to Superman issue 161. This is Jeph Loeb writing with Ed McGuinness on the art. And this is kind of this is the funny thing. And I remember like a bunch of times earlier on, you kept saying that technically this is 2 arcs that are kind of put together. And honestly, having read now the first part of the second half, I'm like, no, it's one big arc. I don't.
No, agree. It is, and it was always it's called 2 separate arcs, and I don't understand why they ever made that choice. I think that was a bad decision on their part.
Because the entire first half is building to reveal that the Joker's behind it all, and then it just goes on from there. Like it's all one thing.
Yeah, I felt like I think that's a poor marketing angle to name it separately.
Yeah,
I don't know. Maybe that's just me, but it seems like a bad choice to me. So this is what, part 6?
Yeah, part 6 of 9.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Superman starts off all Apocalypse Now coming out of the water, and he's with Superboy, Supergirl. He's actually using his heat vision in a really demonic looking page to kill the robotic fish, or the fish that the Joker's got in there, because they're all laughing fish.
Yeah, they're like Jokerized piranha.
Yeah. And there's a whole moment where he thinks Aquaman's came to help him, but he's not. He's just kind of happened to be there with Aqua Long Lad, which is an amusing little joke. I'll give them that. No, you don't think that was amusing?
I mean, it's not my style of comedy. This.
That's fair. No, I'm not. No, I mean, I was mildly amused by Harley arguing for a piece of the world for herself, and then as soon as Joker killed, because Joker's like, "Where's Lex?" and then realizes, "Oh yeah, I killed Lex," so he brings him back with Mixie's powers, and then immediately shoots him again. Which, I appreciate in concept what that is. But yeah, so you've got the supers with Lois and Steel included, going in to try and take care of things, and the various characters show up. The Jonah Hex style character,
Bounty.
There you go, Bounty.
I'm learning the names.
How could I ever forget Bounty?
How dare you?
Ignition shows up, blasts the other super members. Superman gets pissed. Bizarro shows up. Superman kind of talks Bizarro out of getting involved in a weird way.
Yeah, it's a little. I'm not entirely sure how.
Yeah. Lois looks. I mean, it's kind of appearing like she's making a heel turn here, where she goes to Joker and says, "I want to make a proposition." But I feel like this is, it's going to be like it looks bad, but then it'll turn out she's actually playing him to ultimately
almost
save the day.
certainly, yeah.
Superman's concerned because they're in Gotham because he wants to find Batman, because that's the one Justice League member he can't find. And the big reveal at the end of the issue is that Batman's dead, and he's been nailed to the outside of the Gotham Police Department. And like, I suppose in one way it makes sense that Joker would do this, but in the same time it doesn't, because kind of like, at least for a lot of us, our favorite interpretation of the Joker is that he actually is kind of in love with Batman and loves having him play with.
Yeah, I mean, admittedly, it's a bit more of a modern approach, yeah. And this,
I suppose,
it's weird that this isn't that long ago. This is 2000.
Mm-hmm.
I just gotta show you how quickly that established take of the Joker of there's this that love connection of they need each other in Joker's mind. How quickly that's kind of set in as the established version. And
I mean,
it's only over that last 15, 20 years.
I'm sure it existed before this. Maybe it just wasn't the one that everyone goes to, like,
Yeah, whereas now it is the go-to thing.
And I like it, so I'm happy to go to it, but I think it makes Joker more interesting. He doesn't want to kill Batman,
I think storytellers like it because it means they don't have to come up with stupid ways for Joker not to win.
I mean, that's fair, but I do genuinely think it makes Joker a more interesting character, that he doesn't want to kill Batman. I
agree.
Yeah, so, it's one of those things where, when I saw Dark Knight for the first time, and there's that moment, like, it's simple, we kill the Batman, and I'm like, okay, all right. But of course, the whole point is that by the time we get that meeting in the room in the police station, he's like, "No, I don't want to kill you." Like,
Yeah, and also even at that point in the movie, they don't have any relationship.
Yeah, not yet.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not until like he actually sort of goes up against them and sort of interacts with them that kind of forms.
And also, just I know we're not really here to talk about that movie, but
sure.
The idea there that he says, it's simple, you kill the Batman. That's their solution to the problem. At no point does he say it's what he wants to. It's just, this is what you
exactly,
need to do.
Yeah. He's selling them a product essentially, and that's his pitch. Well, I mean, we clearly don't like this arc very much. We've been down on it since the second issue. Even though I don't think this one, the last one, have been as bad. Like, I think this issue was a quick enough read versus some of those earlier issues that I hated, which were like a chore to get through. But I wouldn't say I like it. I mean, it's it's suffered enough that at this point I don't really like it that much. I mean, there's the odd little joke I'll chuckle at, but
I like this one the most in a long time, just because it had really nice art. Still, I like McGuinness.
Sure. But
nice
the sad truth is that he's probably not going to be back now.
No, this is probably it.
Yeah.
We got 3 issues to suffer through.
Yes, and more than that, we'll be telling you what the next vote is at the end of the show. So look forward to that. But yeah, we giving this a show. Let's just move on.
5.5.
Because we're just going to end up talking about Dark Knight more if we try and talk about this. Yeah. I'm more positive. I'll go with 6.
So much more positive.
I chuckled at Aqualung Lad, alright? I'll give it a 6. And also the double kill on Lex was also slightly amusing. So this is our final book of the week, which is Batgirl issue 4 by Bryan Q. Miller and art by Lee Garbett and Tim Levins. So it's a shame there's 2 artists. It's not just Garbett all the way through, and I could notice the difference as I was. I mean, it's not that the art was bad. It just wasn't as good. You know, that's
I get the feel.
The classic conundrum. So yeah, this is Batgirl as Batgirl. She's in got her own costume. You know, she's struggling with schoolwork and lying to her mother and be like, yeah, I'll take it easy, mom. I'll do my studies. And of course, she's not actually lying about having a lot of homework, but she's still going to go do Batgirl stuff anyway. And Babs is properly 100% being her oracle now, and there's a lot of joke here actually where she's like, is there an iPod jack for this thing? Even this has got a dated thing where nowadays like iPods are kind of gone. Like, this is obviously much further than videotapes.
Yeah. This is only 10 years ago.
It's funny.
As opposed to...
It's funny, because think about it. We talked in Birds of Prey about the video store, right? And all the 90s action stars. And then around 99, 2000 in JSA, you had the Felicity on TV, right? It's just really funny to me that then this, 2009, 2008, well, probably 2008, this issue. No, 2009.
It started in 2009.
It started in 2009. I'm thinking it ended in 2009. Yeah, 2009. She references an iPod, and now, and I miss the iPod. I do. I liked my iPod, but, it is what it is.
The sad reality is, I don't really need one anymore.
Well, to be fair, when I loved my iPod, my phone was not as advanced. And
well, that's the thing now, isn't it? Like, most people now have a phone that far exceeds any iPod.
Yeah. So Babs is like, you just have to hum. And I love the art in that panel. This blank stare. And I love that it's identical to the previous panel. So it gives you this idea of her staring at her. It's really deadpan.
It's the amount of times that I stare at you whenever you just do a shitty pun, where I just stare at you and be like, no, not having this shit.
Yeah, it's just the deadpan delivery of the line that you get from the art.
I could relate to that.
Yeah. But you can tell the art changes though, because the immediate next page it feels a little bit different. And then Babs in the following page feels different to the Babs that was on that first couple of pages. But hey, it is what it is. So Steph, goes around the city, gets some burglars. She fights someone on the top of a tour bus going through the city. Although
it's a proper open top tour bus, but with a bat symbols on it.
Oh, I have to question. City tour at midnight. It's a bit weird.
Hey, if you want to spot the Batman,
I suppose. Yeah, I suppose if you're out to see the Batman.
That's clearly what this bus is. It's the bus to spot the Batman.
Yeah, I do love that the little girl's like, no, it's Batgirl, and she gets all excited.
Yeah, I kind of love the idea that there's a tour bus going, hey, come spot Batman. That's what you come to Gotham for.
It's like Jurassic Park, but for vigilantes. I love the joke at the bottom of this when she lands, and she sort of lands on her knees and her ass is sticking out into the air, and she's like, at least I got my good side, because they're all taking photos of her.
Yeah. I mean, no, that's Babs saying it to her.
Oh, sorry, yeah, sorry, Babs says it to her, yeah. But I mean, the point remains.
The joke's the same.
Yeah, the joke's the same. Really good stuff. But the little girl gives her a little, to keep up the good work in her ear, and it's a really sweet little moment, and she looks properly like, oh, shocked by it. But then the main story of the issue kind of kicks in, and the power goes out behind her. The entire city goes out. So okay, so what's going on there? We have to try and figure out what's happening. Meanwhile, that detective whose name Nick, there you go, he's Nick, the love interested. He's Gordon grabs him and says we need to go. And go. And actually, there's a lovely little parallel here to Babs and Steph, where earlier on when she went to fight one of the burglars, Babs over the comms had a one-liner, right? Based on what he just said, and Steph's like, "Oh, you can at least give me a chance to say something cool like that." And I love, because I keep saying this is like Batgirl. Buffy is Batgirl, right? Is kind of the way I compare this. And Buffy always had the one-liner, right? And that's like she wanted to do the one-liner, and she's pissed she couldn't. It does it again here with Nick and with Gordon, where something they have to go to the baseball. Whatever villain's causing the blackout is at the baseball field. And he's like, oh, let me think of a good baseball zinger. And Gordon just says, leave it in the bullpen. And he says the same thing. At least give me a chance to say the cool stuff. And he's like, old habits. And so I love the idea that both Babs and Jim, father-daughter, are having the same problem with their young proteges. It's just good stuff. Babs, Wendy is insisting on trying to rehab herself to walk again, even though she, physically shouldn't be able to ever, and she won't let herself fail. So Babs kind of tries to help her out and give her a talk,
bit of a pep talk. Try and don't be so angry.
It's the little details I love about this. I love when they emphasize the difference between Batgirl and Batman, especially particular to the Bat that we're looking at, because I wouldn't expect this from Cass, maybe from Babs, but definitely not Cass. But they do the Batman Begins here, when he's upside down. The Batman Begins when he takes on the guys at the docks. Even at the docks, we're literally at a cargo dock right now, and Batman's upside down, and the guy's like, where are you? And he's like, here, right? And it's this creepy, Batman moment, right? I loved it in this. Steph's upside down, she's got a big giant grin on her face and says, tag. It's just the difference. It's just the little difference.
Yeah.
Her version of it. I love it. It's good stuff. And she, there's a little joke here as well where she gets, it's just like a mugging, and when she gets the purse, she looks inside to see who it is, to who you have to give it back to, and it's her mum's purse. So instead of handing it to her, she just sort of throws it at her.
It's quite a funny view where it's her mum giving the report to the police, and they're like, what did the purse look like? And it just goes flying across behind her and smacks the window with a great whap sound effect. It's just like that.
Yeah, the baseball field, which does have lights because they've got a backup generator or whatever. They find a burned employee. Pretty grim stuff. And Steph's doing a little bit of her Spider-Manning. She's eating a candy bar in costume, just sitting up on a flagpole, as you do. Great panel at the bottom of the page here, though, because some big electrical occurrence happens. There's a big orb of lightning in the city, and she sort of dashes off to it. There's a great panel at the bottom where it's just her in silhouette with a cape. It's actually very similar to that Year One panel of Batman on the city, the rooftop.
I can see what you mean.
Just in the sense that the cape's kind of flowing the same way. It's a very similar,
Yeah, I'm with you.
Bat spring into action. And Wendy has a sort of dramatic moment. She sort of falls over when she's trying to, walk in the beams, and Babs tries to help her, and she breaks down, starts crying. So, they're kind of building this Wendy stuff up for later, obviously. We're not quite at what the point of it is yet.
Biggest critique of the art of the issue is definitely this here, where it really emphasized on her ass when she's down on the ground, breaking down in tears. Yeah,
not a time.
Play your moment. At least when they're doing it with the superheroes in costume, they're in a big action moment. I get it. I understand. That's the moment that you're choosing to do it, right?
Yeah.
This here, not the moment.
Yeah. So it turns out to be Livewire is behind all this. My favorite moment of the issue,
definitely,
easily, is Gordon and Nick are behind their car, sort of taking cover. And Steph kind of grapples past them and just sort of waves at Nick and says, "Hey, you." And Gordon turns and goes, "Hey, you." And he's like, "No one raises an eyebrow when you talk to Batman." And he's like, "I'm pretty sure Batman's legal, detective."
That cracked me up.
I love this moment so much. So much.
This is my favorite moment of the run so far, frankly.
Yeah, and the fact is we know that she is legal. She's in college, right? I mean, if she isn't, she's about to. There's no way she's much younger than 18. She has to be hitting it.
You have to be, right?
Yeah, no, you have to be. Yeah, I mean, it depends what part of the school year the cutoff is for the age, I suppose. But
does it?
Well, obviously here you'd always have to be 18, but I don't know. But
I'm assuming that you'd always have to be, because surely you'd have to be 18 by the way it works.
Probably. Anyway, we know she is, right? But obviously she's just of age because she just started college lately.
She's young. Is the point here.
Yeah, she's young. So to Gordon, she looks borderline, is what he's saying.
The point here is she's very clearly Batgirl and not Batwoman.
Yes. And Livewire's all cocky, like, you know I fight Superman, right? Like, you like, you don't have a hope in hell. But of course, she actually, sprays her with water, hits a hydrant. Although she does talk about she hopes the boots will protect her ankles. She's like, oh god, this is going to hurt.
That's a great little lettering touch as well. Is it's just on repeat with no spaces.
Yeah,
and you kind of get exactly what it's saying. It doesn't take much deciphering because it's a really nice font.
I love the payoff to this fight where because it builds up because Livewire has that line, I fight Superman, you know that, right? And like she takes her down with the water. So okay, she's kind of got a good lick in there, but she's not won the fight yet. And Livewire blasts her with the lightning, and it's kind of this repeated panels going down the page of like Steph sort of holding her hands up going, oh no, I'm getting hit, and it just sort of keeps going, and at the bottom of the page she sort of just looks down at herself and like, oh, I guess she's like
Livewire's like, guess the suit's insulated her. She's like, guess it is.
Yeah, it seems like this went quite well. It's almost kind of that moment in Avengers where Thor lights up Iron Man, and obviously it's a bit different because he's like, oh, it energized the suit, but it's kind of a similar beat.
Just it didn't kind of go as planned. In this here, it's like, you're gonna punch me now, and then she finally gets a one-liner in, Hazinga.
And the visual of Steph being draped across a car, drinking coffee or whatever. But Babs, who's our computer science teacher now, is like, well, you've got homework to do. That really cracked me up. But it's done, of course, and her mum tries to wake her up for school at 6 a.m. So she hadn't even went to fight Livewire yet at midnight. So she got home. I mean, actually, it was 5:20 when she was talking to Babs. It tells you in the previous page. So she's been home for at most like 35 minutes. At most. And her mum's waking her up for school, and she's like, get out. And she's like, no, give me a few more minutes. And it just ends with her saying, the first few nights are always the hardest, which was said earlier on, and she shuts the door, and that's the end of the issue.
Yeah. I actually think that it's one page too many. Like that like beat where it's just the Babs and Stephanie. We've earned a little quiet. I think that's the beat it should have ended on, personally.
I have no issue with the final page. I think this issue is kind of perfect, and the first 3 issues were the arc of her becoming Batgirl. And this issue is like, here's a one-off standalone adventure of showing everything you can expect from this run. It shows you, Babs being her full-on, person in the chair. It shows you how Wendy's going to factor in. It shows you her mum being a main character. It shows you Nick and Gordon's involvement, and how they relate to Steph. It gives you a taste of everything that the run's now going to be from this point on. So I think is that almost like the second pilot in a way. It really works in that sense.
I get it. I think because we got the like a little page at the start about being at home and the homework, I didn't really need this one at the end as well. Like, I get there thinking, oh, it bookends it. I understand where it's coming from. I just think the moment of the previous page has just a better, more impactful ending for me.
Okay. All right, then what are you giving it?
I'll give it an 8.5.
Still gonna rate it higher than anything else this week. It's very excellent.
That's not true. I give a 9 to Batman.
Oh, so you did. I'm also going to give it 8.5. I think it would have been the 9 probably if it was Garbett the whole time on art. I think the shift in art is what takes it down that half point.
Yeah, even if it had just been the other art the entire issue, there's just a page where it shifts here or there where it's just like, I can tell, and that's worse.
Yeah. All right, there you go. So we'll pick our best and worst of the week, I think, then. And best art as well, I think we've been doing. So do best art first. What you got? Is it Batman?
I mean, it's the only other even potential contender, frankly, is Wonder Woman. But yeah, it's Batman.
Yeah, it's Batman. I'm picking Batman. Worst of the week is it Superman 161?
Yeah, how'd you guess?
I think I'm also going to go with Superman 161. Oh, to be fair, that Wonder Woman a bit more on par for me this time. But I mean, I'll still probably go with Superman.
I mean, I had Wonder Woman at an 8.5.
Obviously, yeah. So. And then best of the week, I'm assuming it's Batman.
I think it might be.
Yeah, Batman. Yeah, Batman wins. Because Batman
we're not predictable at all, are we? in our defense, it is year 1.
Yeah, well, sometimes it'll be more like, oh, there's clearly 2 that it could be more, but it was clearly going to be Batman for the main categories here.
If you took out Batman, like, let's just assume we were on an issue of Detective this week,
right? Okay,
but everything else had been the same. I'd be having a fight between Wonder Woman and Batgirl. Like, genuinely, for me, those would have been pretty close. And I'd be like, okay, well, which one do I pick?
I think I'd have been having a fight between Flash, JSA, and Batgirl. I feel like I'd have had like a 3 for
fair
there
enough.
on my hand, but I mean, obviously I rated Batgirl a little bit higher, so I guess I would have picked that. But it's
But
much
it wouldn't have
closer.
been the clear, where it's just it's Batman.
Yeah, Batman wins, lol. So
Pretty much. Don't tell Matt.
all right, so before we go then, obviously I always plug Patreon and thank our Patreon producers, so I'll do that quickly here. I'll thank David Sharp, Alison M. Fordyce, Cindy Palacios, and Tyler Hess. They are $20 or above patrons, meaning that they get to be called out as producers. But you can be a patron, of course, for as little as $1 per month, and that gets you access to some extra stuff. The $5 tier, of course, you get access to all the multiverse shows one day early, and you also get to vote occasionally on what one of the slots are on this show. So, of course, we're actually only 3 issues away now from finishing Superman Emperor Joker, meaning that we have to have a vote for what replaces that, and so we want to have that sorted before we get there. So the vote will begin up very soon this week on patreon.com/MailFuzzTV, and anyone in the $5 or above tiers can vote on that. The 4 options are as follows, and we went for a bit of a mix here for different things. So we have Batman Year 100, sort of obviously tying it thematically into what we're talking about with Batman right now. We got Superman Red Sun. We have Shazam A New Beginning, which was kind of his post-crisis kind of redone origin. And then we have Zatanna by Paul Dini, which is a little bit longer, but it's his run on Zatanna. So that's the 4 options. We went for some sort of different things. Got one Bat, one Super, and a couple of sort of more quirky picks. So you can go vote for that. I mean, some of those are obviously short ones. I think the Shazam one's only like 4 issues, so we'll have another vote quite quickly.
Red Sun's technically only 3 issues. They're just like 50-page issues.
That is also true, yeah. So I mean, we may have another vote in a month to replace if it happens to be one of the shorter picks. If not, then no worries. Then we'll go. But obviously, because we're going weekly now, we'll be going to the votes a little bit quicker than we were before. So that's what's going up later this week, along with the other votes to be put up there for the movie podcast. So that's what we're going to do. Like and subscribe, all the usual things. Get us on the Twitters at DC Comics Podcast, all that stuff. But yeah, hopefully you're having fun working through these runs with us, and you keep up with us, and we'll get hundreds of issues out of Batman, and whatever else we end up taking on. So but that has been us. That has been episode 8, I think, of Previously in the Multiverse. We will see you next week. Like I say, we are weekly now, at least for the time being, during the quarantine lifestyle. Although, to be honest, it might stay weekly for the most part, even once we get past that. Rather than elsewhere coming back, we may just keep this one going weekly.
We kind of got into the habit of this one now.
Yeah. And we do kind of prefer DC, so I mean, doesn't it?
And also, it's not like Marvel are publishing anything right now.
It's also true. But yeah, so thank you very much for joining us. Let us know in the comments what you thought of the books if you happen to be reading along, and I know some of you are, so please do. But that is us, so thank you once again for watching or listening. We always appreciate it. Keep reading DC Comics, guys, and remember to watch Felicity.